You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the capitalist corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the capitalist corner.
That's right, babies. Where reason meets reality. Welcome to your island of sanity in a sea of insanity, the Capitalist Corner. I'm your host, Mark Pellegrino, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair of the American Capitalist Party, Michael Liebowitz, who at this time looks to be incredibly engrossed in a text message that he's reading right now. Michael is also the host of his own show, The Rational Egoist. Michael, what's going on in The Rational Egoist? I feel like I've just been gone a little bit. I was on a weekend trip over in Toronto working on the show, Vought Rising, and
a little bit. You were gone for a little bit, huh?
But I feel like I was gone for a long time, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it was a long time. It wasn't a little bit. You left me here hanging while you're out there, highfalutin with your Hollywood pals. I'm here holding down the fort, and it wasn't exactly an easy job. And then you're telling me that I look engrossed because it appears that I forgot to send the Zoom link, or it's actually not a Zoom link, the link to the show to our special guest. So I had to handle that. I had to deal with you. I got to take care of Persephone. I do it all.
So instead of bitching and moaning about all the work that you have to do, let's hear about Rational Egoist, and let's hear about our guest who's going to be coming on with us and talking about these current events along with us today.
So the Rational Egoist right now has a great episode out on the 1619 Project with the economist, the economic historian Phil Magnus. He utterly debunks the 1619 Project, so it's a great episode. And yesterday I interviewed Robert Trzynski. He wrote a book called Dictator from Day One, all about Trump. We had a very good discussion. It went much longer than what my interviews normally do on the Rational Egoist, but I'm hoping to get that out there tomorrow. And we've got some other news too, man. Look, I'm doing a special interview later on today. I'm hoping to release it tonight, a special episode of the Capitalist Corner. I'm actually interviewing my boss, who's running for office in Wethersfield, Connecticut, where I'm from. So that should be good too. A little bit of a detour from what we normally discuss, but I still expect it to be good.
Well, you should also point out he's not running as a capitalist, but as an unaffiliated Republican. So
yes, and it's very important also because we're not associated here we're not affiliated with the American Capitalist Party.
Right. This show is not affiliated with the American Capitalist Party, even though we are primary members of the American Capitalist Party. We talk about current events.
What? What is a primary member?
We are primary members. We are the
I don't think there's such a thing, dude. There's no. So who are the secondary members?
In the hierarchy of membership, we are the chairman and co-chair and vice chair.
That doesn't make us primary.
It does make us primary.
Megan is smiling. I'm bringing Megan on. She's outside. She's living the life.
Talk about Megan for a little bit. There she is.
Hi, Megan.
Sorry, I'm late.
Megan is awesome. Her technical name is Dr. Mommy. She is a wonderful biologist and objectivist. And tell us a little bit about yourself and your show.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's good to see you both. I have. Okay, so yes, I'm a molecular biologist. I've spent over 10 years in biotech and pharma. I've worked with NASA isolates like bacteria that have actually been to space and gene therapies. And the best thing about me is that the most wonderful 9-year-old girl calls me mommy. So sorry if there's background noise. I realized pretty early on that
Did Megan go?
She went blank on us. Yeah,
we can't hear you, Megan.
We can't hear you.
Oh no!
You might have to exit out and come back on. I think she's figured out the problem.
Have you figured out the problem, Megan? Oh, okay. She exited. And maybe she'll be back on any second now. there's guys in the audience. Megan's very pretty. Maybe they just want to look at her. I don't know, but she left the screen now. Megan, you're back. And we still can't hear you.
Still can't hear.
She's going to solve the problem. She gave us the 1 second. Okay. Megan Ribbens, PhD. Yes, sir, Greg Lewis. Why don't you do something in the meantime so it's not awkward for everybody? Let's, what are we talking about today?
So one of the first articles you gave me was from...
Oh, wait. You got to tell them about the like, the share, the subscribe, and all that.
Oh, yeah. Please do like, share, and subscribe to this channel, folks. Also, even though we're not affiliated with the American Capitalist Party, you should go to AmericanCapitalistParty.org, donate, buy merch too, right? Advertise the wares of the American Capitalist Party around. Make this a real thing so that the establishment feels threatened. Because when they feel threatened, they do stuff. Not necessarily good stuff, but we want them to be scared. We want them to be nervous that the populace is finally getting a sense of its own moral agency. And nothing shows that better than wearing a Capitalist Party affiliated shirt. And now you're sideways. Now
she's not, though. She's back.
And now we still can't hear
you.
we
still can't hear you.
Okay, she's going to solve the problem again.
Okay.
So please go to to AmericanCapitalistParty.org, like and donate that stuff. Read our policies so that you see what we're really all about. And also, please like this station, share it generously from YouTube to other platforms. I think we should just start first talking about the controversy with conversion therapy that's going on in the Supreme Court. Can we talk about that before?
We can.
As Megan
all
works
right, let's add her. See, Megan.
Is it working now?
It is working.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, keep interrupting you guys. Your flow. I hope the audio is okay. I'm in my car now because it is better audio than anything else I own.
Okay, so now tell us about yourself and your show. I keep interrupting Mark, but that's okay. We don't mind that.
Sorry.
Just tell us about your show.
Yeah, so because I have this beautiful, precocious 9-year-old daughter, I don't know how science education was for you guys, but tell me if this sounds familiar. You're given, Newtonian formula of motion, right? Force equals mass times acceleration or something like that.
No doubt.
Kind of like it was a revelation, right? Like, oh, manna came from heaven and now we have this, so memorize it. Was that what it was like for you guys learning science?
I never learned that, so
yeah,
I don't.
Michael wasn't there. I was, however, and it's. I don't even think the epistemological process was sorted out at all. We were just given the formulas. We were taught the history and just went from there.
Yeah, I wasn't even taught the history. So I just kind of assumed that Newton was incredibly lucky and just kind of got hit on the head with an apple and came up with this stuff, right? And you can imagine as I'm progressing through my education, which was lengthy, and my career, which is even more lengthy, I think that had a profound effect on other scientists and even non-scientists who are just trying to live their lives, right? Like science is supposed to empower you to solve problems. And that's exactly what my science education mostly didn't do. And I wanted something better for my daughter. And that's what we're doing. We're going through the history of biology. Eventually we'll do chemistry and physics and kind of learning a little bit about these scientists. They're all different, you know what I mean? And how they did what they did, they weren't lucky. They didn't receive manna from heaven. They were clever. They worked hard. And I'm so grateful to them. So yeah, I actually, I always demonstrate things like you can do at home because we love building stuff. I think I need at least 3 hands, but I've got some soda. I'm not going to do any product placement. We were anesthetizing fruit flies. So we could do some genetic experiments. So the way you anesthetize fruit flies, there's a couple ways, but one of them is with carbon dioxide. You can make carbon dioxide at home, especially if you have, I don't know, something like citric acid and vinegar, or citric acid and what's another good, baking soda. That's a good, citric acid, baking soda, vinegar, or even soda, which already has CO2.
You're not drinking the soda, are you?
Oh yeah. Well, this also has ibuprofen in it, and I've got a bit of a headache. So.
Oh, Mark, I don't know if you're drinking soda in front of Mark, you may have an upcoming lecture. Just so you know.
Oh wow.
Just prepare yourself.
But wait,
I
we're
didn't
watching. We're
this-
watching science happen. We're watching science happen.
Yeah, normally I just put the fruit flies on top and let them breathe that in, and then they just take a little nap and wake up just fine. So in the meantime, yeah. So.
Now, and what is the name of your show, Megan?
It's it's my screen name, which is M.A. Ribbens with an E instead of an O. Not very clever, but the Patreon is Dr. Mommy.
Dr. Mommy.
Yeah.
Send me a link, Megan, and I'll put it with the show.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Now you're going to help us sort our way through some of these news items that we have today, and there's a couple of them that I think you'll probably be able to give a good scientific perspective on, especially this first one, because there's a bit of a controversy going on in the Supreme Court right now. They've just
Can I give a warning? Can I give a warning real quick?
You're interrupting.
Megan, do not side with Mark over me. I'm not having another guest on this show who's going to constantly be siding with Mark. That is the way things go. The chat does it. Jim does it. I need someone to side with me. And I am in control of the remove button. Just saying. Okay. With that said, no pressure.
You're exceptionally sensitive today, Michael. I have to say, I don't know what's accounting for this.
I'm busy. I'm getting interviewed at 2. I'm doing an interview at 3. I'm doing everything but framing Gilder at this point. Can you just get to the story? I've been trying to get you to get there for a while now.
You're overusing that metaphor, by the way. So Megan, the Supreme Court heard some arguments yesterday on whether or not Colorado's ban on conversion therapy for minors violates free speech. Now, Christian therapist Kaylee Childs challenged the 2019 law, which is similar to bans in over 20 states, that prohibits licensed mental health providers from attempting to change minors' sexual orientation or gender identity. Childs says the law infringes on her ability to counsel minors within a faith-based context. Now, conversion therapy, which is supported by many religious groups but opposed by major medical organizations, aims to have gay or lesbian minors identify as heterosexual and transgender minors to identify with their birth-assigned gender. State officials cited studies linking the practice to depression and increased suicide risk, while Child's attorney argues that evidence of harm is inconclusive, pointing to a recent Department of Health and Human Services report. Now, conservative justices question potential limits on speech, while liberal justices emphasize possible health risks, and the court is expected to rule by 2026. I find neither of them hit the mark at all, of course. In the one place, I think in the government that is supposed to be the philosophical wing of the government, I don't think they're hitting the mark at all. What do you think about this? Well, first of all, what do you think of conversion therapy? And
I think it's repugnant. I mean, I can honestly say I have no opinion about, who my daughter's going to love and what they're going to look like. So yeah, I would never subject her to that. I would never subject anyone else to that. And I was like, but I was trying to steel man, because I was thinking to myself, okay, but I don't think it should be banned. If I find it so repugnant, why do I feel so strongly that it shouldn't be banned? And I thought to myself, okay, if I'm a gay kid, right, and I come out to my family and my family says, nope, we got to pray the gay out of you. So you can either go to seminary school or go to conversion therapy once a week. I would say conversion therapy, I guess. You know what I mean? Like it's not a great option, but it's a better one. So I guess taking away that option.
There may be the option of suing your parents for emancipation, like a legal divorce.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I wish conversion therapy didn't exist, but maybe there are cases where it's, the better of a couple of really terrible options. I don't know. And I don't want to take that away from a kid if that's the best they can do.
But should it be banned? Like already it's banned in 20 states, including Colorado. Should it be banned? Should any kind of doctor-patient relationship like this, that's largely consensual, be banned?
Yeah, I mean, I think no, I don't think it should be, although I think there's probably some nuance in terms of minors, like what, oh, there's a kitty. Like, if there's something that's genuinely harmful to minors, that's a there is something distinctive there. And I feel beyond my ken in terms of delimiting, what's, like there are certain surgeries that you would not give to a minor, right? They need to be able to fully consent to it or not. Does conversion therapy fall under that bin? I don't think so, but I'm not certain. I'd love to hear.
And
what
I
you
don't
guys
know
think.
that they can. I don't know that they can. I think they're words of their parents, and their parents are ultimately
Right.
responsible for that. But Michael, you had a look on your face like somebody farted in the room when I said I didn't think either side actually hit the mark when they were determining what was the essential behind this case. So please tell me what the reason for that look was.
I don't know. I don't remember the look. I might have been looking at the chat, and that's what I'm talking about. So, but there's multiple layers to this, right? There's the legal argument that it violates free speech. So that's put in one place. Then there's the actual scientific evidence that's relevant. And then there's what should a government's role be in things like this. As far as the free speech goes, I don't know enough. Jim Valiant could probably pipe in, but on the side. But free speech does include even repugnant speech. But this isn't
Why is
just
speech. It's a therapeutic.
But
process.
that's where I'm getting to, is that this isn't just speech. You're actually doing something to a person. Now, interestingly, so somebody in the chat said that they find this far less abhorrent than the trans issue, than trans kids being given what's it called, gender-affirming care. Now, having looked into the trans issue a little bit, I'm by no means an expert, but I have read a significant amount on it. There's far more evidence for the benefits of gender-affirming care than there is for conversion therapy. That's the first thing. Also, with
first of all, that's not saying much.
No, it's not. But there is some evidence. Now it's disputed, and there's counter evidence. But there is evidence that for the mental health of the kids, that gender affirming care is helpful. Now, part of that argument gets screwed up because people think that they're giving sex change operations to 8-year-olds, which they really aren't. So that kind of clouds up the mix on the argument. But there's a difference though between the trans issue and the conversion therapy. In one, the parents with their doctor are affirming their child. With conversion therapy,
which may not necessarily be the right thing to do.
Well, but I'm illustrating a difference. Okay. It's not whether it's the right or not. With conversion therapy, you're actually telling the child there's something wrong with him or her. And you're using force on that kid to alter what he is.
If it's in what respect? Because it may be against their will.
Yeah, they don't want to be doing this. They want to.
But how often
now hold on. Can I say what I want to say here?
You interrupted me multiple times.
No, I have not. That's a lie. That's codswallop. No, you're absolutely correct. But who cares if you're correct or not? I know I don't. Okay. So my ultimate take on something like this is, as repugnant as I personally find conversion therapy to be, and I do find it more repugnant than I do gender-affirming care. And by gender-affirming care, I just am referring to puberty blockers, which there's not much evidence that they do long-term harm, and there is evidence that they reduce the mental health trauma of the kids. Nevertheless, my take on both the trans issue and this issue is that parents and the child's doctors are in a much better position to make these choices than is the government. Right? That if parents make this decision, that they have, their doctor says it's okay, I don't like it, but do we trust the government to make these decisions? because then the government has to step in and decide what's science, what's moral, when the parents can do things and when they can't. And it's very tough for me. It's very, very tough for me to say, yes, the government should be stepping in.
So Megan, do you know anything about the rates of success with respect to gender affirming care? Do you know if any of that is pseudoscience?
I don't. I was just thinking with regard to conversion therapy. First of all, I don't think anyone should trust someone from the government to understand statistics. They clearly don't. Or if they do, it's purely by accident. Like you will find some people who work for the government who understand statistics, but they rarely get a chance to talk. So, that would be the first thing. But, I think this is a lot of what I'm trying to teach on the channel, right? Like, first of all, you'd have to establish correlation, right? Like the one side is saying that conversion therapy correlates with increased risk of suicide. And it's hard to, first of all, find a control with which to compare that. But secondly, even if you could establish some sort of correlation, that doesn't equal causation, right? I mean, a kid who's growing up in a very anti-gay kind of place is probably not, like it's hard to maintain a cheery, like optimistic outlook if that's what you're dealing with. So the fact that there's conversion therapy also, how do you control for the fact that the kid's probably dealing with a lot in addition to conversion therapy? That's not easy to establish. And I don't think that should be the government's job. I sympathize with the desire to understand, like, are these kids being psychologically tortured, and what is the role of the government in psychological torture and like minor rights, like the rights of minors. That's hopefully a very edge case, but in general, the statistics are. I am very, very tentative.
It seems like the science in this area has been so highly politicized that it's very difficult to get to what the actual science could be. I find perversions on both sides of the issue, as far as the stats go. And from what I know of them, but Michael, you may know more than I do about this. But all in all, I think that the government has no right to interfere with patient-doctor relationship at all.
That's how I feel.
Right.
I'm going to give an analogy. I'm sorry, I thought you were done, but go ahead, and I'm going to give an analogy.
No, I don't think it's a free speech matter, and I don't think that
I don't either.
Has it right either. It's about freedom of association and whether or not the parents and the child have the right to associate with whatever medical care and receive whatever medical care they think is appropriate to their conditions. And nobody knows those conditions better than the parents, the child, and the physician. And the government has no right to interfere with that. There should be no third-party interference in that, unless there's malpractice. Go ahead, Mike.
Right. Now, if they're doing physical harm to the kid or psychologically torturing, I mean, there are cases where I could see that where there would be a role for government. And as Jim here says, taking a kid to church is psychological abuse. I tend to agree, but I'm not going to outlaw religion. And, I'll give it an analogy, and I want you to stay with me on this. There's a program that I think everyone's heard of called Scared Straight. Have you guys heard of it?
Oh, in the 70s. I saw it when it first came out.
Okay, so Scared Straight, and there's a lot of different iterations of it. I went to it when I was a kid. Scared Straight is essentially they bring troubled kids that are heading down the wrong path, and put them in front of convicts. The convicts then proceed to try to scare the hell out of the kids, right? You're going to get raped in prison. I'll rape you. I'll take your shoes, this and that. And it's supposed to scare the kids straight so they no longer are criminals. Studies indicate that the kids who go there, and this actually attests to something Megan said, the kids that go there actually have higher recidivist rates than the troubled kids who don't. Now, is that because the kids that are more likely to go to Scared Straight are more likely to get in trouble anyways? I don't know, but but it can be shown that the correlation is that scared straight is ultimately harmful. So should the government then ban that? And I bet if we put our minds to it, we could come up with many, many, many examples. And when it comes down to it, unless it's a clear-cut case of child abuse, I am always going to side against the government interjecting.
Is that a private program or is that a subsidized program?
The Scared Straight?
Yeah.
I think it's probably both. I'm not 100% on it, though. When I was in school that we went to it, the guy's telling me, I'm going to take your shoes, and I'm looking over my shoulder, and my teacher's right there, and I'm thinking, you're not taking my sneakers in front of my teacher. Like, just stop. You know what I mean? Like, this just codswallop.
Well, when I saw it, I tell you what, it made me prison averse. But I was just a young kid in suburbia at the time. Robert says, whatever medical care they think is appropriate. Nope, too broad. I guess he's referring to my standard where I said, really, it's the business of the people involved directly in the context of the treatment of the child. And Robert, if you can come up with a more specific standard upon which the government can then act to protect the child's interest, I'll be interested in hearing what that is.
I would say it's clear child abuse.
Yeah,
if there's clear child abuse.
That's what it is to me. Yeah. But then again, to me, even sending a child to some of these indoctrination institutions that we call modern public schooling is clear child abuse.
Right.
Sometimes introducing this sort of this panoply of gender ideation to children at such an early age could be considered child abuse because children are developing an identity. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I see a real analogy there between, the way government interferes or is considering interfering with, conversion therapy and interfering with education in general, right? I know I think I mentioned to Michael that I will often ask parents, even parents who, spend a lot of money sending their kids to private schools, what is your vision for what does an educated young person look like to you? Like, what is your vision for when your child graduates high school? What do you want them to know and to do and to what their attitude might be? And they often look at me like they never considered that question before, because what difference would it make if they had, right? They have virtually no option in terms of what the outcome is going to be. What is the point in trying to formulate that vision? If in a few years my daughter says I'm gay and it really upsets me, I'd want to try to help her, right? And not having an option taken off the table doesn't make it easier for me to figure out how to help her. It's not trivial. I still wouldn't send her to conversion therapy, but like taking away that option doesn't make my knowledge easier to acquire and my understanding any deeper. And that's really the goal. I don't know if that helps.
No, I think you're right. You can't take options off of the table, potentially positive options off the table between a patient and their doctor. One's sexuality or their identity is not the government's business. It is not the government's business. It's the business of the individual themselves. And if they're underage, their parents, it's a problem for them to resolve. And certainly some parents are going to be more adept at that than others. But only when there's a clear abuse cycle being shown can the government come in when somebody's rights are demonstrably being violated and actually do something about it. But the ban in 20 states right now for conversion therapy, I understand it seems to be motivated by the virtue of letting children expand and grow and allow them to be what they are. But once again, it's interfering in doctor-patient relationships and in a therapeutic process that they have no place in interfering with. Robert says again, Michael speaks rightly. Of course, he's wrong there, Michael. But he also says Mark is right as well. Public schooling can be abusive for bad education, but only physical abuse can and should be prosecuted. Conversion therapy can include similarly objective physical abuse. I don't know anything about conversion therapy, so I don't know if it does include anything like that.
I believe there can be some operant conditioning going on. where, for instance, they would expose a kid to a homoerotic pictures and then shock him so that he comes to associate the two. But I don't know much about it. If it's including stuff like that, then I would say no way. But if it's talking and trying to talk them out of it, whatever, as much as I don't like it, again, I just don't think the government should be doing it.
It certainly seems to me that in the case of trans individuals, lots of every child goes through transitions of sexual identity, and it's quite normal. It used to be considered quite normal. Michael, I'll admit something here in front of everybody. When I was 6 years old, I used to put on my mom's high heels. It didn't mean that I was going through a trans stage or that I was identifying as a woman. I just did it.
Yeah, see, that's the problem, though, Mark. Right there. That's the problem.
People today would consider that a sign of me transitioning into some sort of.
I'm not buying it.
Female
identity. I'm not buying that.
You're saying that's just a conservative talking point.
I'm saying that's codswallop. Now, I'm not saying it could never happen, right? I'm not, but I'm saying, like, I've watched shows. Or, the thing that really won me over, I watched this show one time. I think it was on PBS, and it was all about this issue. And these kids, you could clearly see, and as they were growing up, that they were different. Like there was no doubt about it. It wasn't just a matter of some kid laughing and joking and putting on his mom's skirt or whatever. I did that. I think most kids did it. I put on makeup. I thought it was funny. These are persistent patterns and thought processes that these kids are engaged in. And also it should be known that people today, like kids today, are not this weirded out by this. They're really not. Like, it's not that crazy of a thing as it seems to us. So we also have to, keep boomerism in mind. But I really think it's just pure conservative claptrap bullshit. The idea that these kids are just going, tomboys or some such thing. Unless the parents.
Some are.
Some
are
sure.
Trans. Look, I had two gay friends that I grew up with, and I was friends with them from the time I was 10 years old. I knew they were gay. There was absolutely no question in my mind that they were gay. Now, they were very good friends of mine. One of them especially, a very, very dear friend of mine, and still is a very dear friend of mine to this day. No question. No question. But the LGBT community, once the trans issue came up and started embracing postmodernism and claiming that, oh, look, sexuality is a narrative. It comes from a power narrative. It's really something made up. They lost what they won over the last 30 years, which was something I recognized as a child in my gay friends, which was, you were born this way, man.
Right.
Or, sexuality is a very complex thing. It's probably a combination of a lot of things, including very, very early childhood experiences that are kind of impossible to nail down. But there's no question in my mind that they were that way. My own stepson, we knew he was gay from the time he was 3 or 4. There was just no question about it.
Yes, and that's precisely my point. And you don't mistake a kid or a little girl, who wants to shave like her dad or whatever. It's just not the same thing. But I agree with you about the left, the left wing wackos who politicize this stuff. And I know people that are lesbian, trans, and they want nothing to do. They don't want to be involved in the politics of it. They just want to live their lives.
In fact, many of them are rebelling against the politics, and they understand that the politics are actually hurting their issues. They're making their claims less legitimate.
Should we make the disclaimer that I am not Mark's companion? I'm just want to put that out there because Mark has referred to me as his partner and his companion, and somebody posted a video we made where they assigned me at the con. They called me your companion, and so maybe while we're having this, it's just a good qualifier.
They give you a badge. Did they give you a badge? Did they give you a badge? It's actually said companion.
Yeah, what are those things called? Lanyards?
Yeah.
Is that what it is, lanyard?
It could be worse. It could have been like consort or,
How is that worse than companion? The only thing worse than companion would be if they put lover. That's it.
It's
so
listen,
real quick.
Consort, it's implied
in companion. So the other day I went into a Starbucks with a guy I've been friends with for 40 years. Big guy. Maybe 300 pounds, big, long beard he's got. So we go in and we're buying coffee and I'm breaking his balls about the coffee he's getting. Why are you doing this? So the girl behind the counter says, "You guys are so funny." I said, "Yeah, we've been together a long time." And she says, "Oh, that's great."
Okay, from now on, whenever you go with Mark to a con, your name tag will say heterosexual life partner.
Nice. I like it.
I don't know what that means.
HLP.
So I might be trying to go out to Rhode Island in November. We're going to see if I can make it happen, Michael. So if you want to take a trip out to Rhode Island,
I will. And I'm thinking I'm going to be in San Diego next week, and I'm thinking of taking a drive. If you happen to stop in LA, I'll take a drive out there, say hello.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be here. I might be in Toronto working on the show, but
Oh my God.
I have to look at my schedule. I'll send you my schedule so you know what's going on, because you're my partner, man. You're my heterosexual life partner.
Yes, HLP all the way. Can we get to an actual story instead of you flirting with me?
We're going to do that now. We're giving Persephone a lot of material for out of context today.
She hasn't been making those. She's been slacking. I'm not trying to put any pressure.
Probably because you've been doing the show recently, and there's just not enough snafus in there to.
Oh my God, there's more.
Really?
Yes.
Why do I doubt that?
The day that listen, you should have seen the female response in the audience the day I wore my tank top. I couldn't get Persephone to even do the private chat. It was so bad.
It was probably, I know who was leading the chat, first of all. We know
it was you.
No, it wasn't me. It was Lee. Lee was doing it. She's the perpetrator.
Lee Frazier.
Here, Frazier. That's correct. Now, look, we've been bagging on the left here a little bit on the right, but let's bag on the right a little bit today, because there's some crazy shit going on that President Trump is doing with the National Guard, and right now the Texas National Guard are in Illinois against the governor's wishes. Now, I think Trump is trying to, with his use of the National Guard in Portland. In Los Angeles and now in Chicago, he's trying to use the Insurrection Act in an attempt to justify the use of this blatant level of force against these state governors. What do you think of this crazy stuff, Michael? Now, clearly they're going in there. They say to fight crime, but they're also going in there so that they can help the ICE folks go in there and start taking people out and removing them and exporting them out of the country. And so they're protecting them from protests against this, protests which I think are justifiable. As you know, this does not represent the American Capitalist Party point of view necessarily, but I am pro-immigration, pro-open borders. Don't allow criminals and people with communicable diseases in, but otherwise, if you want to work and be a productive member of society, you can and should be able to move from a worse place to a better place. That is what liberty is. That is the essence of what individual rights is. This administration is violating individual rights on a scale almost unprecedented. We're going to get to some of that a little bit later with the multiple corporate takeovers that the government is doing right now. But what do you think of this movement of troops to enforce law and or to fight crime?
So if you notice, the administration here, Trump and his cronies, are very fond of using terms like invasion, insurrection, terrorist, insurrection, invasion. Portland, Oregon is a war zone or a war-torn country, he called it. I can't remember exactly what. For a reason, because of what it invokes and also because of the legality of what they want to do. So in the case of deploying the guard or deploying the military, they say, well, it's an insurrection. Of course, there's no insurrection going on. But even worse, there's no skyrocketing crime. Crime is on the decline. It's going down. It's not going up. It was going down in DC. It's going down in most places that I'm aware of, but he's claiming there's this horrible crime problem and he's going to swoop in and fix it. And of course, the sycophants in the magosphere that are the influencers pump that garbage out into the audience, and the average MAGA guys out there clapping and thinks it's true. I was watching a thing on X today where Benny Johnson talks about how Kristi Noem is staring down an Antifa army. And they had a video. There's nothing. there's nothing there. And I'm just like, does this guy actually believe this? I don't know, but it is horrible. You're getting people used to the idea of having the military in our streets, which is a terrible, terrible thing. I think, and this is pure speculation on my part, but I'm inclined to think that this is going to play a role in the upcoming elections in 2026.
Well, this is exactly what J.B. Pritzker has been saying. He's saying that
right.
He's acclimating the population to the presence of the National Guard so that these people will now be there around the voting booths, around the polling place, to protect, quote unquote, democracy.
Yes. So we have a right-wing talk show host.
Trump's endgame. I was trying to think, like, him sending the National Guard to DC and Chicago, and all these other cities. What's his end game? I mean, crime goes down because it already was, and then everyone goes home. I mean, I sort of doubt it. Is he hoping that eventually he can take over local political offices with armed force? I
think it's just power.
I
think it's just power.
He's demonstrating that he is the biggest political title.
I think so. I think
I think you were going to go to a phallic symbol there, and you were probably more accurate there because
there's a lady on the panel. You don't talk phallic symbols.
He's trying to show that he's got the biggest swinging, you know what, in the country right now. That
tie, yes, tie. He has the biggest swinging tie.
That's his bag. Now, but Michael, here's the thing, and I'll throw this by you too, Megan. You talk about endgame. He's such a pragmatist, and he's so impulsive, and he has absolutely no rational principles whatsoever. It's almost impossible for me to believe that a guy like that has an end game.
I don't think he does. I think it's about power.
Unless he's being governed by the 2025 cats from the
I think that's happening. I think that those people try to steer him, but I think he just likes to be powerful. He views the left as his enemy, and he's going to show him who's boss. But I also think that there is an attempt that's going to try to suppress the vote. Now, we have a right-wing talk show host here in Connecticut, Reese Hopkins, who I'm actually friendly with. Friends, maybe. I've interviewed him. I've been on his show before. I've debated him. But he makes this point. When Dems say that this could suppress vote, he says, look, they're admitting that illegals are voting. No, they're not. What they're saying is that there's already people being harassed who aren't illegals, right? And who the hell wants to take a chance of going to vote and having these people round you up by mistake? So it can suppress the vote, especially it matters when you're talking about such close elections like we're prone to, in the last 25 years. You sway a few people not to vote, deter them, you take the election. I wholeheartedly expect if Trump loses, not Trump, but the Republicans lose, that Trump will claim some sort of election fraud. You might see the National Guard seizing election machines, that sort of thing. Be prepared for it. I think it's coming. I think it absolutely is. And I would not be surprised at all if in 2028 Trump tries to run again. He's never shown any inclination to just give up power. He's never shown any inclination to just admit losing. And I'm not just talking about in elections. I'm talking about in his private life. He was being screwed by the real estate boards, whatever. He was screwed out of the Emmys. So I think we need to be prepared for this.
Well, I certainly think you have a legitimate point with respect to the 2026 elections. There may be some plan in force to intimidate the electorate, to keep them from going out and voting in a Congress that would be oppositional to him. Of course, I'm praying for something like that to happen, because even though the Democrats are doing it for the wrong reasons, they're the oppositional force now, and they're the ones who are right now at the vanguard of our liberty, even though that's not their end game either. Speaking of Trump and his tendencies to want to dominate pretty much every aspect of American life, just recently, Michael, this is a guy who was supposed to, remember DOGE, how it was supposed to make government more efficient, was supposed to cut spending, and of course they went from $2 trillion to $1 trillion to $120 billion to $16 billion to now nothing. Most of those programs and people are being sent back to government. So none of the fat has actually been trimmed. And now he's even spending more money subsidizing companies so that he can take a stake of the company. And one of the excuses they're using, as you said before, Michael, they love using the term terrorist. They love using the term insurrection now because it gives them emergency powers to extend government. But you know what the other term they love to use now, Michael? National security interests. Whenever there's a national security interest, they now can subsidize a company, take a share in that company, and then partially own it with the potential of taking on more shares of that company. And this has just recently happened with Trilogy Metals, which is a rare earth metal mining company here in the States. Under the guise, of course, that we are too dependent upon China for our lithium. We're too dependent on other countries for rare earth metals. And this is a national security issue since rare earth metals are in pretty much all of our technology. We should make this insular. We should make sure the production remains at home. So he invested $35.6 million of our dollars, folks, into this company. There's nothing will go wrong there. In turn, taking a 10% stake with an additional 7.5% stake in the potential future. So we've seen government subsidized companies, what happens to them, how much corruption there is, how much they become a sieve for money, and what a drain and how unproductive they are. Michael, what do you think the right thing would have been to do, since it is certainly a national security interest for us to have rare earth metals? What would be the capitalist solution to such a problem?
Free trade.
Isn't that crazy? Free trade.
That's it. Yeah, that solves it. Yeah,
we can just end the episode.
Yeah, free trade. Look, free trade is where we end up with the most stuff, the best stuff, the least expensive stuff. There's no reason to think that it couldn't work in these spots here. I just, I actually made this article was called Republican Socialism, and or something of that sort. But I made a post this morning on both X and Facebook, and I said, imagine if President Bernie Sanders were in office. And he was increasing tariffs and expanding tariffs. He was buying shares in private companies for the United States government. He was jawboning the Federal Reserve to basically, expand the money supply. And he was attempting to bully companies to act in the way that he wanted to. I said, would people say, wow, Bernie's really gone capitalism? Or would they say Bernie is implementing his socialist agenda? And of course, people would say he's implementing his socialist agenda. So why, because we have the big orange idiot puts an R next to his name, do people not see that he's implementing a socialist agenda? That's my take on this. And that's the correct take. Megan, I know it's a hard act to follow, but give it a shot. She disappeared. I didn't mean it, Megan. Come back.
She seems to be having technical difficulties. She's frozen. In the meantime, he has taken shares in U.S. Steel and Intel and plans to take shares in others, folks. This is socialism. And look, it's not like there hasn't been a precedent for this, Michael. It's not like the Republicans haven't complained about this kind of action when the Democrats have done it with the American car industry, for example. They complained like mad, but when the Republican does it, well, it's for national security, and national security is a rubber stamp for any overreach of government that they feel like doing. And what I found interesting in this article, Michael, was something that Rand used to talk about: the difference in the planning cycle of a government and an entrepreneur who's starting a business. A businessman has to plan for a long term, right? They're incentivized. Finally, you're back.
Sorry.
They are incentivized to plan for the long term, Michael, which means they have to be rational actors. The government, on the other hand, is incentivized to plan for every 2 to 6 years, whatever the election cycle is. And so they are incentivized to be political actors, not rational actors. And when you think about the government, that'll change hands every couple of years, the ideology of which and the leading, the promoting ideas will change hands every 4 years or so. You can't imagine the chaos that's got to bring to a company that's actually trying to plan over the long term. When you have such a huge stake in a company, I mean that is a controlling stake in a company. It's not like It's not like it's not going to make any difference. Do you have any opinions on this, Megan? On this government takeover?
I was actually trying to think, like, what would proper government action be? And I don't just mean in terms of raw materials. Well, partly, I was thinking, okay, imagine that these rare earth metals are being used to build drones that can outmaneuver any kind of anti-aircraft projectiles or something like that, right? I think that's probably something our military should have if we ever engage in, urban warfare, right? So, okay, if that's something the government should have at its disposal for our proper protection, what's the right thing for them to do? And I was thinking, it seems like they should, and I don't know, I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. It seems like they should behave like a customer, right? Who, we have these specifications based on what we know of anti-aircraft missiles, for example. Give us that, you know what I mean? And whoever offers us the best product at the best price, that's what we're going with. And that's what they do with a lot of armaments. They go to Boeing, they go to Lockheed Martin, you know what I mean? I think there's some issues in terms of like how those companies are remunerated, like cost plus. So they say that overhead is their biggest profit maker, which is a little ridiculous. But in that case, securing I think they should be completely agnostic as to what raw materials go into those products. You know what I mean? Whether those products are built with rare earth metals or with, biological materials that can perform the same sort of chemical functions. That's a thing. So yeah, I mean, should the government, when it's purchasing for the military, for example, should they behave as a customer or should they behave as a producer? I'm not clear on that, and I'd like to hear your guys' opinion.
Michael, do you want to start? I have thoughts on it, but I'll let you start if you want to.
I just firmly believe in free markets and free trade and free capital movement, and I'm hoping we can maybe get to that before we go. The immigration effect on wages and the role capital takes.
I was gonna go for the AI thing first, but we can go for the immigration thing because I think that's fair.
Yeah, but ultimately, if capital markets, if we have free markets and free trade, I think that the products that the government needs will be available, and the government could act like any other consumer and purchase products. The price will reflect the supply and demand of those products. In my experience in learning, everything the government gets into ends up worse. And I just don't buy that we've made it now, 250 years or whatever it is, however old the country is, without having to buy shares in private companies, and that all of the sudden this is an absolute must that we have to do. I think it's more about Trump using his power than it is about anything else.
Again, I'm so flummoxed as to the end game, right? I mean, the worst case scenario is that even with this injection of capital, the company goes bust. So he's got 10% of nothing essentially after they sell off all the.
That wouldn't be the first time that's happened. That happened with Solyndra under Obama, and it happens, I'm sure, with more organizations that merge with the government because it incentivizes corruption. Akira Felix says Republicans are nationalist socialists, Democrats are egalitarian socialists. Both lead to camps. I got to agree with you. Both lead to camps. Both leads to abuses of rights, folks. And we're seeing it. If you don't believe that it could happen here, read Sinclair Lewis's "It Can't Happen Here," and you'll see, I think, something identical to that fiction going on right this very moment. I think, of course, the government has a tradition of contracting out to private organizations for the military. Of course, they can control the spending better. They could budget it much better, but that's the way it would work. And I think anything that's a national security interest should be free and open trade, because that is the way we will get the best resources at the best prices and make them most accessible to people. It seems counterintuitive, folks, but so does stepping into a punch and moving your head slightly to the side seems counterintuitive too. But you avoid the punch that way, And in this sense, you also bring in more capital, which you need. Now, speaking of this, Michael wanted me to talk about an article in The Independent, Why Immigration Doesn't Lower Pay, Capital Barriers Do. Now, this is very important because one of the main reasons the Republican administration is against immigrants coming into the country is because they claim that they compete with Americans for jobs and therefore push down they exert a downward pressure on the price of the wage, and so wages go down, lowering the standard of living for everybody. It's of course not true. Empirically, is not so. But there is a situation in which immigrants coming in can appear to lower the wage, but that's not what's really happening. And Michael, I want you to explain what's really going on in a case like that so people understand what's happening.
So the reason that it doesn't actually lower wages, well, there's a few reasons. One is because the immigrants that come in are not only a supply of labor, but they also are a demand for products. And as the demand for products goes up, the demand for labor eventually goes up, and hence you have a higher price for that labor. But the capital, what occurs is that capital ends up more expensive because if you stop capital inflows, then you have more people working on less capital, which in turn ends up making the capital more the marginal productivity of the capital increases. And that combined with the diminished supply, you end up with a higher price for capital. And you're not allowing the market to expand. And by not allowing the market to expand, the price of labor ultimately goes down. Vincent Galloso, who wrote the article, of course, does a much better job than I did at explaining it. He's great, by the way, Vincent Galloso.
That was a great thumbnail description. Michael, that was a great thumbnail description. I thought that was fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you very much. But I highly recommend reading the article. Matter of fact, I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it right now. Matter of fact, that's what I'm going to do.
So, Michael, what should happen? We have an influx of immigrants who come in and work. What should happen at the same time that these immigrants are coming into work?
Oh, they should liberalize trade, stop putting tariffs on things, and just allow capital and labor to flow across borders. That's what they should do. So the capital
goods can flow freely.
Yeah. It's the moral thing to do, and it's the economic thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Protectionists are dumb.
If they did that, folks, wages would rise, your standard of living would rise, productivity would rise, innovation would rise. That is just the law of economics. Stop rejecting the laws of reality, folks. You do so at your own expense. Remember to like and share this program, folks. This message needs to get out there in the world, and it needs to become the dominant moral ethos. Rational egoism needs to become the dominant ethos. Individual rights need to become the dominant ethics out there in the world right now, and capitalism, the dominant economic ideal out there for everyone, because it is the only thing that will lead to our prosperity, happiness, and most importantly, freedom and the ability to realize our potential, which is my capitalist thought for the day. I just did it right there, Michael. That was it.
Oh, come on. There was not even an announcement. I posted the article, by the way, to both X and Facebook. But in order to truly be a capitalist thought of the day, there has to be the announcement of the ante, before. It cannot be post. It has to come beforehand.
Oh, this is a rule that was never established.
No, it's precedent.
It's precedent. I don't mind breaking.
There's common law.
I don't mind breaking with precedent if precedent, really
all right,
irrelevant.
Okay, we'll go with it. So what's the question going to be?
I'm going to let Megan ask the question.
Megan, what we do is, do you know the precedent here? Do you know what we do?
I am an avid listener to the Capitalist Corner, so
awesome.
Yes, I'm pretty comfortable with this. But I wanted to kind of repeat back to you what you were saying about immigrants working and how that affects both the wealth in a market and wages. And so I was like, I am not an economist, so I'm treading very tentatively at this point. I'm referencing your own book when he says, a company wouldn't hire someone for $6 an hour if the person can only produce $5 an hour worth of wealth in general. I'm sure there are exceptions, but if that's true, it means that everyone who's working at every level is producing more wealth than if they just stayed home. Now, again, there are monkey wrenches in that idea, right? Like FDR kind of assumed that if he just set people working, he'd be producing more wealth, and that just wasn't. You can't reverse cause and effect. But in as much as someone's hiring to do a valuable job to create wealth, the more people working, the more wealth being created.
I would say even a janitor working at, say, Microsoft is helping to produce wealth, because that enables the people who are producing the product that much more time to focus on what they are doing, and so he can be productive at his job, even though some might consider that a lowly job, a low skill job, which it is. He is a wealth producer as well, and contributing to the production of wealth in this country, and should feel proud about what he's doing.
And to be honest, I am completely agnostic as to where a person comes from, or what their English sounds like, what their accent might be. If they're, the janitors often had accents, in the labs that I've worked at. But man, if they didn't clean that lab to a fare thee well, something was going to get contaminated, and that had huge downstream effects in terms of like value lost. They were not getting paid enough, as far as I'm concerned, for the value they were creating. So yeah, what their accent was like, who cares?
Well, unfortunately, Trump cares about that, because I think he doesn't understand that America is an ideal of liberty, and it's the only country in the world that is built and founded upon a moral ideal. He doesn't realize that. I think he and his ilk, the Nationalist Republican, now Judeo-Christian socialists, are sort of turning towards a different ethnocentric vision of what America is. And that is not the case. Whoever wants to work and be an independent moral agent and think for him or herself is an American, as far as I'm concerned. And they are all over the world, man. And if they want to come here and participate in the American process, which is pursuing your own happiness and rational self-interest, welcome, my friends. You are a part of the American experiment.
Do you see what happened, Mark?
That is my second capitalist.
You did, but do you see what happened? Do you see what happened?
What happened?
She's manipulated us. She tried to get out of asking the question. She deflected with comments, knew that you couldn't help but start commenting back, and now she's counting on you doing what you were just going to do and saying goodbye.
No, I don't think that's the case.
Didn't I ask a
apologize.
No, you didn't ask a question. You got to ask a question.
You have to ask a question so that our viewers can then answer it
on YouTube.
On YouTube, so that we can then do we address it the next week? We've never addressed it.
No, I go there and actually address them on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I still have to do that. Okay,
I've got a question. I've got tons of questions. I could do this all day. Is the Capitalist Corner the best YouTube channel, or second best only to M.A. Ribbens?
There you go, folks.
That's the question. Go and answer it. Megan, I fear you're going to have a big problem here. I'm just saying.
Well, hey, I want to say I really appreciate you here, Megan. Give a shout out to your show one more time, please, for us.
Yes, and I'll attach the link, by the way, in the YouTube when I go over there.
Thank you. So you can go to our channel. For now, it's free. Subscribe, and subscribe some more at M.A. Ribbens with an E instead of an O. And then throw us a couple bucks at Patreon. It's patreon.com/Dr. Mommy. No periods or anything, just Dr. Mommy. You can get, we'll teach you how to build microscopes and lenses, and we'll go on history walks and breed fruit flies and, look at germs. It's so much fun.
That sounds super fun. And folks, remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Remember to like it on YouTube and to share it on YouTube across other channels. You've got 23 hours to recheck your premises, folks. So if there's an ounce of statism in you, if you're flirting with socialism, we are your conversion therapy.
And real quick, we got a special episode tomorrow. Jim Valiant's going to be here. We are going to discuss the views and legacy of Charlie Kirk.
Thank you for that.
The whole hour is devoted to that. make sure you attend tomorrow. Very, very good discussion coming up.
And race, give us a good thumbnail for that causes a lot of controversy with conservatives.
No, be careful with that, because race sometimes goes a little overboard, and I got to say, race, bring it down. So be careful telling race to go controversial.
Okay, I'm saying race, go controversial. Race, you make up your own mind. You're your own moral agent. But folks, we are your conversion therapy. We want to see you here. Same bat time, same bat place, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. Be here or be square. It's supposed to be there or be square, but I'm saying be here or be what's that? What Brian?
No, you don't explain it. You just ruined it. Be here or be square. Peace.
No. You just did this says
peace.
This means something else to our UK fans, folks. Anyway,
What?
we'll see you here tomorrow, folks. Check your premises. Bye-bye.